So I had to delay my recording for this video after the LAFC versus RSL game is over because for whatever reason the league website did not put the stats number of this game correctly, and that I waited for about 20 minutes to see whether or not if they have fixed it, and they didn't. And I even checked the MLS app on my phone to see if they fixed it too. They didn't either. So hopefully once I get to this game and get to the point where I talk about the stats, they of course might have fixed that issue, and I can of course talk about the stats and the shots in this game, in this last game of this weekend's action. But if that is not going to be the case, well, MLS seems like they cannot even figure it out in terms of how to properly put the stats number of a game, which is not a big surprise because that's not the only thing they seem to broke this week. This week, VAR seems to just completely took a day off and just kind of summarize why everybody seems to be very frustrating with the usage of VAR, and myself included, the fact that I just get so frustrated with the way that VAR is clearly not used correctly in this league. But the first game we're going to be talking about, thankfully, did not have VAR controversy, and that in the end, it was SKC getting a 2-1 win against the Houston Dynamo, and that early on, I thought the Dynamo had a couple of chances to get the opening goal. One of them came in the 15th minute when Quintero just dragged his shot wide as the Dynamo had some half chances to score early, but instead, it was Sporting KC, the one that is able to get the opening goal, and Polito was able to return into the starting 11 in this game, and after the way that he was able to score the brace and also score the winning goal in this game, you can clearly see how much Sporting KC missed Polito, as he of course scores his first of two goals in the 34th minute from Gianluca Busio to give SKC a 1-0 lead. In the second half, SKC pretty much was hungry for that second goal. Maric had to make an incredible double save, first robbing Kyrie Shelton and then Johnny Russell on the follow-up, before he had to deny Shelton again, this time in the near post in the 68th minute, but he could not save the shot in the 73rd minute when Polito would score the winning goal in this game from Busio and Espinoza. And that in the 76th minute, both of these teams kind of got into a little bit of a scuffle after Quintero kind of body slammed Winston Reed onto the ground, and that, you know, both teams certainly had some choice words at each other, but there was no red card that was happened during that scuffle, and just a couple of players that actually got a yellow card. Now, in the 84th minute, Junga actually scored his first ever MLS goal from Quintero to make it 2-1 in favor of SKC, and I'm pretty sure a lot of SKC fans are thinking, oh no, here we go again. Is this going to be like the SKC team that we've seen from this season and last season, where they're just going to completely shit the beds late in this game, and that they're going to draw 2-2 in this one? And at Houston, they were really pushing for the equalizer, and I'm pretty sure SKC fans was sweating for these last couple of minutes and hope that their team don't blow the lead again. And the good news is they didn't. They were able to hold on this one to get a 2-1 victory. And the shots in this game, 13 shots compared to 11 that SKC had, 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that SKC had, 7 shots off target compared to 3 that SKC had, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 that SKC had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession. As for Sporting KC, this is a much needed win, consider how much they have been struggling in the past couple of games, and it's no wonder why when Polito is back into this starting 11. And I know I said before how much this SKC team struggle on the attack and there should be a concern. Maybe there wasn't really a concern knowing the fact that Polito was back in the starting 11, and maybe that was really the big issue, why they couldn't score the goals that they need. And it's no surprise that he's back in the starting 11 in this game. He scored 2 crucial goals to, of course, get all 3 points for Sporting KC. Whereas for the Dynamo, well, one of their key players, which they're not going to have him anymore because they just sold him a couple of days ago in Albert Valise. Yeah, you can clearly see without Albert Valise, and just a life after Albert Valise for this Houston Dynamo team has just not been really good, and that attack, which was so good in the beginning of Phase 1 of the MLS schedule have just kind of disappeared in the last couple of games, and a lot of that has to be without Albert Verlies being so dynamic on the attack, and that just feels like without him, that attack just doesn't look dynamic whatsoever and just struggle in terms of scoring goals. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Minnesota. So I know I said in the preview that, I don't care if the Loons win 7-0 in this game against FC Cincinnati, or in this case, win 2-0 against FC Cincinnati. As long as we get the 3 points, I'm going to be happy. And, I'm going to eat my words in terms of saying that I'm very happy the fact that the Loons are able to get all 3 points. But that being said, boy, I was so frustrated for most of this game, seeing the team blowing chances left and right, and the way that the defense for part of this game was just god awful against a struggling FC Cincinnati attack. Now, in the first half, 13 minutes into this game, VAR, of course, gave Minnesota a penalty after Duplon, of course, brought Chase Gasper in the box, which Kai Kamara was able to step up and score his first Minnesota goal in the 16th minute to give the Loons a 1-0 lead. Now, just 1 minute later, it should have been 2-0 in favor of Minnesota if Robin Lod, who was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and I thought for sure that has to be the second goal, consider Robin Lod has been red hot for this team. Well, he basically gone back to the form that a lot of Loons fans is the reason why he's getting criticized by a lot of Loons fans, and that he just completely missed the target in terms of that. And that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot in this game, where there was just way too many times where we have one-on-one opportunity, and most of the time either the keeper was able to make a big save for FC Cincinnati, or we didn't even put it on target. Now, that being said, in the 30th minute, Dane Sinclair was able to rob Amaya, as the defense, I thought, was really slacking off. And they were really slacking off in the second half even more, because Dane Sinclair was able to rob probably the most snake-bitten player in the league in Jurgen Locadia, who had a free header. And that the way that this game is at 1-0, I was definitely sure the fact that we were going to hang on to this 1-0 lead, or we were going to potentially get the second goal and pretty much just kill this game off. And I was certain the fact that FC Cincinnati is not going to score a goal, even if you just give them a wide open shot to do, because it seemed like all their attacker are being snake bit. But that being said, there were a couple times that I feel like the Loons defense are kind of like treating like that, and think that they just give FC Cincinnati a player to just kind of almost challenge them to see if you can, of course, break us down, and also decided to be clinical in terms of finishing. And while when you're playing against a team that struggle in terms of scoring, that might be a good strategy. Overall, that's not a good strategy if you're going to play it like that. Like, you can't, even if you're facing a struggling scoring team, you shouldn't be just giving them free opportunity, like I've seen many times in this game, where FC Cincinnati, they just had players that was wide open in the box and have a chance to put it into the back of the net. And if it wasn't for Dane Sinclair, which once again was in his game and making some big save, this could have been a whole different game, and it would have been on verge of potentially be one of the most embarrassing result that Minnesota has suffered this season. Now, in the 69th minute, we finally got that second goal, and it was Kevin Molino who just came off the bench, scoring from Reynoso to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. The Loons, of course, had chances for the third goal, but so did FC Cincinnati, that was looking to get the first, because, again, complacency from the Loons defense, and that their defense almost is challenging FC Cincinnati to just shoot even when they get open spot, and see if they can, of course, put the ball into the back of net. Once again, in the 89th minute, they almost did it again, and Locadia almost broke his curse, but once again, he was robbed by Dane Sinclair for the second time in this game. But either way, that was really the last action of this game, as Minnesota was able to hang on to a 2-0 lead. Shots in this game, 14 shots compared to 16 that FC Cincinnati has. Like, 16. That's way too much shot to allow to a team that is struggling to score goals. Now, thankfully, they only put 3 of their 16 shot on target compared to 4 out of 14 that we had. But both teams had 8 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that FC Cincinnati has. 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Minnesota had in this game. And, again, as much as I'm going to eat my words and say that this is a job well done and that we need to move on into the next game against Nashville to once again hunt for all 3 points like we did in this game, we got to play better than what we did against FC Cincinnati in the next one against Nashville. Like, not only the fact that we got to do better in terms of the finishing, but this defense can't just give too much respect to an opposition that struggle in terms of scoring on the attack, because as much as the opposition struggled to score on the attack, if you give them opportunity and if you give them space, like I've seen many times in this game for the opposition to, of course, score goals, they are going to score a goal against you, even if they are struggling. So, yeah, for Minnesota, it's a good win, but there's still a lot of improvement that needs to be. And for FC Cincinnati, at least I think this might be the best one of the better performance on the road. But again, when you cannot put the ball into the back of the net, it doesn't matter how good the performance you had and how many chances that you generate. You're not going to get a win if you're not gonna score goals in this game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Dallas and Columbus. So this was another game where I said in the preview this was going to be one of the game of the week, and that Dallas for the second week in a row at home is going to be playing against a very strong Eastern Conference team. And again, this one between Dallas and Columbus was just as exciting as the one that Dallas played against Orlando City. The only difference is this time we actually had goals in this game. Although early on, 12 minutes in, Maurer was able to rob Josh Williams, who had a free header, and that was really the only chance that we had in the first 25 minutes, as both teams was just kind of feeling each other out and trying to not take too much of a risk. But after that moment, this is when the game started to light up a little bit, as Jimmy Maurer would make another big save in the 28th minute, this time robbing Jonas Mukhtar, as Columbus was inching closer to getting the first goal. But that being said, on the other end, Eloy Rome was able to deny Jara from close range in the 31st minute, before Barrios was able to score in the 38th minute from Fafa Pico to give Dallas a 1-0 lead heading into halftime. Now, in the second half, it seemed like Dallas basically sleepwalk heading into the second half, because 61 seconds into the second half, Jonas Mukhtar was able to score from Santos and Afo, and yeah, that was just some very bad defending from FC Dallas. Like, you cannot let Jonas Mukhtar wide open there on the left side and expected the fact that you're not going to get scored on during that instant. But then, just 7 minutes later, FC Dallas was able to win a penalty after Afo basically jumped over the head of Barrios and pretty much brought him down. I mean, I understand Afo was trying to clear the ball away, but that was kind of a little bit reckless, the fact that he was trying to jump over the short Barrios, and basically not only he did not get the ball, but made a lot of contact in the box, where that was stone cold penalty that was given to FC Dallas. Now, as I mentioned, Dallas, of course, got a penalty, which Ziegler was able to put away in the 53rd minute to make it 2-1 in favor of Dallas. But 3 minutes later, it could have been tied up at 2 apiece, when we thought that Zardes, of course, was able to score a goal, but for whatever reason, VAR disallowed for offside. And this is the first of what would be a lot of missed call we have seen this week in the VAR department, and one of many ones that I, of course, disagree in terms of the way that they look at VAR, because when I look at this, I thought the last Dallas defender was kind of even on the line, and that, if anything, if he wasn't kind of even, I didn't think that the angle that they show was definitive enough that they, of course, decided to overturn this goal. Because remember, Zardes, of course, scored this goal, and originally this was a goal given to Columbus, and that if you, of course, are going to overturn that goal, you need to have a definitive and a conclusive kind of evidence that that was a clear, obvious mistake and that it should have been offside against Columbus, but they felt like it was clear and obvious enough, and therefore the goal, of course, was disallowed. But good news for Columbus fans is that Columbus would get the equalizer just 6 minutes later, and it would be Santos that scores from Zardes and Boateng to tie the game up at 2 apiece, before Eloy Rome had to be subbed off with an injury, and that Andrew Tarbell had to come into the game, and that Columbus this year, they just cannot catch a break in terms of the injury bug. I mean, you know, at halftime, Lucas Zarian actually went off with an injury, and let's just hope he, of course, is okay, because this is now the second or third time that Lucas Zarian has went off with an injury. And as much as Zarian has been very important to Columbus, and he has been probably one of the biggest off-season acquisition and probably one of the best off-season signing we've seen from last off-season, the amount of time he's been injured is got to be very concerning if you're a Columbus Crew fans, and the fact that, you know, the amount of time that he, of course, is injured, he's going to be right around the same situation as what Minnesota had to deal with Kevin Molino, where, remember how Kevin Molino, when he's with the Loons and he's in the starting 11, he can definitely do amazing thing, but the only problem is he usually doesn't stay healthy, and his leg is basically made out of glass. Let's just hope for Columbus Crew fans' sake that Lucas Zarian is not going to be like Kevin Molino, where he definitely has the talent in terms of scoring goals and basically be a good playmaker, but he's just way too injury prone to this team. By the way, after that incident, you know, for the last 19 minutes of this game, I thought there was some half chances for both of these teams, and there was also a couple of rough challenges in the last 19 minutes of the game where the referee was once again handing yellow card like candy because of those rough challenge. But in the end, it finished in a 2-2 draw between Dallas and Columbus, and the shots in this game, 12 shots compared to 13 that Dallas had, 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that Dallas had, 7 shots off target compared to 5 that Columbus had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Columbus had. And overall, I think a draw is fair for both of these teams, but I'm pretty sure if you're Columbus, you're kind of a little bit concerned. The fact that, once again, injury has hit hard on your team, and especially if you're a team that is fighting for these team that is chasing right behind you in terms of the Supporters' Shield race and trying to finish at the top of the Eastern Conference, this is probably the last thing you want, and probably the worst time to start having injury issue that is happening in the team. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Sounders getting a 3-1 win against the Vancouver Whitecaps, which I'm pretty sure everybody is not surprised the fact that the Sounders are able to win against the Whitecaps. But in many ways, this should have been a clean sheet that the Seattle Sounders had, and they can pretty much thank VAR for the reason why they did not get a clean sheet in this game. And boy, this was actually turned out to be one of the most blatant worst call I have ever seen VAR made ever since when it was introduced in MLS just a couple of years ago. But before we talk about that, in the first half, and you know, Vancouver actually got off to a great start, and that Stephen Fry actually had made an incredible save on Cavallini to keep this one at 0-0, and that despite the fact early on Seattle had all the possession, Vancouver was looking very dangerous on the counter-attack. Now, as the game continues on, Seattle started to really take control, and that Vancouver wasn't able to try to go on the transition as much as they did in the first 15 minutes. And that Ruidíaz almost headed in the opening goal, but he just headed it wide in the 25th minute. Before Morris did the same thing, had a free header right near the front post, but unfortunately could not hit the target, as this game remained at 0-0 heading into halftime. And if you're a Whitecaps fan, you know, yeah, you'll be happy the fact that it is a 0-0 game, and you might think, well, you know, we keep the Sounders at bay at halftime. Maybe in the second half we can basically come out and hopefully, no. In the 46th minute, João Paulo scores to make it 1-0 in favor of the Sounders, and Meredith was actually in goal in this game, which I was kind of a little bit surprised because I thought Evan Bush was ready enough that he was going to be starting in this game, but instead Meredith remains in goal, and that maybe I feel like he could have done better in terms of this goal that he could have prevented, because, you know, while this was definitely a well-driven shot from João Paulo, I think Meredith maybe could have dived a little bit quicker to basically push that one away, but then again, take nothing away from this incredible goal that João Paulo scored for about 30 yards out to give the Sounders a 1-0 lead. And that goal also kind of opened the floodgates, because 7 minutes later, Eric Godoy unfortunately scores an own goal to make it 2-0 in favor of the Sounders. Before, it was 3-0 in favor of the Sounders, just on the stroke of the hour mark, when Rui Diaz was able to score from Jordan Morris to make it 3-0. And then this is where we get to the controversial moment, because VAR somehow, in some way, did not overrule a clear and blatant no penalty kick call that the Whitecaps, of course, was given, and gave Yeimar a yellow card instead of a red card during this instant. Now, actually, I'm going to go all the way back in terms of explaining what happened. So, originally, Yeimar looked like he brought down Cavallini in the box, and that Yeimar, of course, got a straight red card, which, at first, that already is the incorrect decision, because there is this rule called the double jeopardy rule, which I'm assuming it has enforced in MLS, where if you decide to bring down a player in the box, and as long as you're intended to bring down a player in the box, which at that time it looked like Yeimar did do it, then it is going to be a yellow card instead of being a red card. Now, when I look at VAR in terms of them potentially maybe resented Yeimar's red card because of that, not only the fact that that definitely shouldn't have been a red card, and that Yeimar, of course, probably should have only got a yellow in terms of that instant, but in many ways, I don't think he should have got a card at all, because on the replay, it looked more like Lucas Cavallini was the one that was trying to push Yeimar out of the way before he kind of fell down on the ground. And I was for sure that VAR, not only the fact that is not going to give Yeimar a red card, but they're just going to give a free kick to the Seattle Sounders, because it looked like Cavallini was the one that actually fouled Yeimar in that instant. But nope. Instead, VAR decided to take 5 minutes to look at it, and they somehow still make the wrong decision and said that it was a penalty given to the Vancouver Whitecaps, and that Yeimar only gets a yellow card instead of a red card, which Montero, of course, was able to put a penalty away, but that should have never been a penalty. Like, that, I just don't understand how in the world they spend that long in terms of looking at it, and yet they still got it wrong at the end of the day. And that, you know, the good thing about this, well, I wouldn't say it's really a good thing, but more kind of like a little bit of a silver lining is that at least this bad call happened when it's doing a game where it was already 3-0 and things are pretty much set in stone, because I'm pretty sure the Sounders are not going to blow a 3-0 lead at home, especially against a weak Vancouver team. But imagine if this kind of instant happens in a very tight game. Like, imagine if this happened in the playoffs or even in the MLS Cup final. You know how much fans are going to just pull their hair out and go absolutely berserk the fact that this could have been a game-changing moment. And, you know, I said it many times before, and I'm unfortunately going to have to say it again. VAR in this league is absolutely incompetent, and unless if Pro does not figure out this VAR mess that is going on and actually teach the people that is in charge of VAR to actually know how to operate the damn system, we're going to see an instant in the playoffs or even in the MLS Cup where there's going to be a very controversial moment, and it's going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth because of this instant. I mean, I can see it coming. Like, this is just the amount of bad calls that has happened in this league, not just this one, but include many of them, is just completely completely inexcusable, and that I just feel like at some point, and it could happen this season, where we could have a playoff game and we have a bad call like this happen, and it's just going to completely change the compression of the game, and at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of sour taste out of both fans' mouth, and there's going to be a lot of anger that is going to be expressed in one of the fan base because of VAR not using it correctly. But either way, despite that, as I said, this was during the time when the game was pretty much all over, and that Vancouver did kind of get a red card just 2 minutes later after they scored the penalty, when Bikel, of course, got himself sent off after a serious foul, and I'm not quite sure if that was kind of like a retribution that the Vancouver Whitecaps got because they got that lucky penalty. Before the Sounders had a chance to score the fourth when Meredith was able to rob Rodon a chance to score the fourth goal. But in the end, the Sounders were able to get a 3-1 win in this one. And the shots in this game, 22 shots compared to 3 that the Vancouver Whitecaps had. 9 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Whitecaps had. 10 shots off target compared to none that the Whitecaps had. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Whitecaps had. And possession-wise, 70% possession compared to 30% possession that the Vancouver Whitecaps had in this game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Cali Classico. And you know what? You can call me crazy all you want, but I actually feel more satisfied the fact that the Quakes were able to get this win against the Galaxy compared to the last win that the Quakes got a very surprising 2-1 win against LAFC on the road. And despite the fact that, last week it was just absolutely incredible, and it was, in my opinion, the greatest upset I have seen the Quakes have ever done in all my time supporting this team, there was a lot of luck that was involved in that game. Like, you can't tell me without a straight face the fact that the Quakes got really lucky late in the game by scoring 2 goals and kind of caught LAFC completely cold, and that LAFC just did not have their shooting boots in that game, and it was the reason why they weren't able to put the Quakes away, despite the fact that they had many chances to do that in the last one. This game, however, there was no luck that was involved in this game. The Quakes absolutely deserve all 3 points with the way that they play in this game, and in some way, they also had to face not only against the Galaxy, but also had to face something called VAR in this game. Now, in the first half, 4 minutes in, Leggett was able to score the first goal for the Galaxy after Chicharito, of course, hits the post, but somehow it fell right into Leggett, who was able to put it into the empty net. And I thought early on the Quakes was very sloppy, and they definitely didn't look like they were ready in this game. I mean, they were just giving the ball away in the midfield way too many times, or the fact that some of our defenders just overcommit whenever the Galaxy was trying to go on the attacking end, and that I feel like we deserved to go down 1-0 so early in this game. But we did have a chance to get the equalizer after Steris, of course, handballed it, and that they actually had to go to VAR to see whether or not if he handballed it, and they said that he of course did handball in that situation, which of course gave the Quakes the penalty, which Wando was able to step up. And knowing the fact that Wando, of course, was automatic, I was pretty much for sure knowing the fact that this was going to be 1-1 in favor of the Quakes, but instead Bingham was able to save this one, and that, it wasn't really a good penalty from Wando, probably one of the worst one I've seen him take, but take nothing away in terms of an incredible save that David Bingham was able to make when he was able to dive the right way. Now, that being said, after about the 20-minute mark where the Quakes kind of looked sloppy in the midfield, they kind of eventually fixed that mistake, and that they really started to take control of this game. Bingham did have to rob Wando again, this time from the header in the 25th minute, before the Quakes finally got the equalizer they deserved in the 42nd minute, when an unlikely source, Marcos Lopez, scores from Lima and Espinoza. They said that this was actually his first ever MLS goal, so congratulations to Marcos Lopez in terms of scoring his first MLS goal. But what a way to score your first MLS goal, with him just scoring an absolute banger on the left side. And if there's any player on this Quakes team that I would last think that he of course would be the guy that score a banger, I wouldn't think Lopez was going to be that. I would definitely think Lopez was going to be the one that was the last player that I think could score a banger for the Quakes. But, I'll take it. We definitely deserve up to that point with our dominance, and we head to halftime tie at 1 apiece. Now, in the second half, once again, we continue to show that dominant and look to be in complete control of the game. Bingham, of course, had to deny Espinoza a chance in the 59th minute before we get to the controversial moment of this game. And just like in the Sounders game where the controversial moment happened right near after the hour mark, it happened here right after the hour mark again, as for whatever reason, Corona did not get a red card after he basically slapped Lima in the back of the head. And, I remember 2 years ago when Montreal played against the Galaxy, and remember that moment when Zlatan basically slapped Raitella in the back of the head, and that Zlatan, of course, got sent off in that moment. And while that kind of moment was pretty obvious, and that slap of the head was more egregious than what Corona did by slapping the back of the head of Lima, how in the world is that not a red card in that instant? I mean, I don't care if it's as egregious as what we saw a couple of years ago. The rule says anytime you intentionally put your hand in the face or the head, or in this case slap the head of the opponent, that is an automatic ejection and an automatic red card in that instance. So why in the world did they not show it during that point? And why when they go to VAR, where I was expecting they would change that and give Corona a red card, instead, all they did is just give Jackson Yu a yellow card after there was a bit of a scuffle that happened after this incident. I mean, I was just absolutely livid when I saw this, of course, happen. And this is not like the game against Seattle where, when we had that bad call doing that instant, that was during a game where it was pretty much over, and that the Whitecaps was probably not going to come back in the game, even if they scored a penalty that should have not been given at the same play. But here, I just don't know why. Like here, it was a game where it was 1-1 and it was all to play for, and I have no idea how in the world would that not be a red card, and that in a game where if the Quakes didn't win this one, not only the fact that I will kind of blame the fact that the Quakes were being very ineffective on the attack, but I would also blame the fact that VAR was one of the reasons why we didn't win this game, and that if we would have been up a man in this game, you can guarantee that we probably would have actually got all 3 points in this game. And that, again, I was absolutely livid. The fact that this was not a sending off, and that the Galaxy clearly should have been down to 10 men in the last 25 minutes of the game. Now, despite that, the Quakes, they kind of stay their composure and continue to look in control and have a lot of chances to potentially get the go-ahead goal. But they got a chance to get the go-ahead goal in the 81st minute when Felcher, of course, bring down Salinas in the box, which, this time it was Rios that steps up in the penalty spot because Wando was already subbed off. And when I saw Rios about to take the penalty, yeah, I did not have a good feeling, the fact that he was going to put it away. Like, I even have less of a good feeling he was going to put that one away compared to what Wando did earlier when he took the penalty. But, Rios, he proved me wrong in that instant, and he actually took a cool and collected penalty to give the Quakes a 2-1 lead, and that would actually be the final score of this game, as the Quakes had 14 shots compared to 9 that the Galaxy had, 6 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Galaxy had, 3 shots that was blocked for both teams, 5 shots that was off target for both teams, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession. And, even though the Quakes have won back-to-back games, I am still reluctant the fact that I believe that this is going to be a turning point, that the Quakes can maybe somehow get themselves back into playoff contention. And that for the Galaxy, yeah, if it wasn't panic time before with this team on on a 3-game losing streak. It is definitely now, with them going on a 4-game losing streak right now, and that it seemed like the goal have just not only clearly dried up, but this was once again a very bad defensive display, and that they kind of also got the benefit of the doubt of the VAR instant in the 65th minute, and yet they still could not take advantage and could not even end their losing skid that is now at 4 games for them. But moving on into the last game of this weekend's action is LAFC and RSL, and I actually got both of these team wrong in terms of the fact that RSL should be in the beginning because they're actually the home team, and that LAFC, of course, were the road team. And coming into this game, I actually found out that LAFC have yet to get their first win on the road. Well, they finally did in this game, and boy, did they needed this win against a struggling RSL team, because coming into this game, I even said in the preview, how will LAFC recover after they probably suffer the lowest point in their MLS franchise history by losing to the San Jose Earthquakes at home? And the answer is that they were coming out in this game hungry and looking to redeem themselves after they, of course, missed so many chances in the last game, and that this time they were able to be clinical in terms of putting away their chances. And they scored the opening goal in the 22nd minute when BWP was able to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. Now, I thought there was a potential offside call when it looked like Cifuentes basically tried to cross this one into the box, and that it somehow actually hits the post, and that Rossi was actually there to try to slide it in, but he didn't, of course, slide that one in because it hits the post. And then there was definitely a question that maybe it should have been an offside on Rossi, because on the replay it looked like he was clearly in an offside position. They didn't call it, and instead give a goal for LAFC, and that they would double that lead in 4 minutes time when Rossi was able to score from Cifuentes. I mean RSL just once again completely got caught on the counter attack during this instant, and that Rossi just completely burned RSL for committing way too many men and playing a high line during this game. Now, despite that, RSL did have some good build-up play, but they just looked lackluster heading into the final third and just couldn't put the ball into the back of net. And that would continue in the second half when they had a glorious chance in the 46th minute to give them one goal back, when Corey Bear clearly should have scored from 3 yards out. Like, he had a free header from about 4 yards out, and yet somehow, in some way, he wasn't able to put it into the back of the net. And I also said LAFC set piece defending thing was once again woeful, and that their woes, of course, continue, because prior to this play, there was actually a mad scramble from a corner that somehow, in some way, LAFC was able to deal with. But my God, if this LAFC defense does not figure out this set piece defending, or even figure out their defense in general, you know, this could be a real problem when they actually do face a much tougher team compared to RSL. Now, in the 57th minute, RSL had another opportunity to get one back, and this was even a bigger chance than the one that Corey Bear made, because Sam Johnson was literally wide open from 3 yards out, and all he had to do was basically put the header in. And the fact that he didn't even put that one on target basically just kind of sums up the fact that, yeah, RSL is not going to score a win in this game, and that missed opportunity would definitely come back to haunt RSL, because just 2 minutes later, Brian Rodriguez actually for once was able to be clinical and score the third goal from BWP to make it 3-1 in favor of LAFC. Now, RSL eventually did get the goal that they, of course, were looking to get for this game, and that Silva actually got this goal from Ruiz, but I feel like this should have been an own goal on Atuesta, because you can clearly see when Silva hits this one, it was saved from Cesiaga, who unfortunately, while he was trying to parry that one away, Atuesta kind of got in his way, and the ball just kind of ricocheted right back into the back of the net. But certainly RSL didn't care because they got the goal back, and then for the next couple of minutes, they looked like they had the momentum of potentially making it 3-2, but as the game continued to go on, they started to lost that momentum and kind of started to lose the belief, the fact that they were going to come back into this one. And by the time when we get to the last 10 minutes, it was LAFC that looked like they had a couple of chances to make it 4-1 in this game. But either way, LAFC got a big 3-1 win against RSL. And again, I'm going to go to the MLS League website right now and just check to see if they actually have updated the stats. If they didn't, then it's fine. We'll just kind of leave it the way that is here. Where get to the final point. Let's see. Did they update it? Nope, they didn't. It's still messed up like that. So yeah, what a way to end this review of the MLS action, when once again the league not only doing a bad job in terms of VAR, but also doing a bad job in terms of not even actually putting the right stat number, and we will never know how many shots or shots on goal, or even regularly me talk about the total shots that happen in this game. But yeah, overall, again, LAFC, this was a much needed win for them, but obviously they need to prove in these next couple of games that they can continue this momentum, because this season, as much as we've seen before where LAFC looked like a side that won the Supporters' Shield last season, we also saw a team that looked like a team that is a shell of themselves winning the Supporters' Shield, and that I feel like their defense still need to improve on, because again, there was a couple of big opportunities that RSL, if they were being clinical, this could have been a whole different game, and that maybe LAFC wouldn't be able to be comfortably winning 3-1 in this one. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review for this week's action. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all of these games? And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.